This is the Hollywood Outsider. My name is Aaron Peterson, and welcome to an exclusive YouTube review of A Good Day to Die Hard. Generally, we use excerpts from our episodes, but this time we wanted to review a film as soon as it came out. So I'm here with Brian Williams. What's up, Brian?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Okay, A Good Day to Die Hard. Bruce Willis is back as John McClane. Finds out his son apparently has been accused of murdering someone. So he flies to Russia, Mother Russia, to try to bail his son out, find out what's going on. Turns out his son's a CIA spy protecting an informant, and then all kinds of hell breaks loose. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, I guess wasn't much more than that, really.
No. What did you think of the story overall, first off?
I thought that was probably as much story that you just described there than what this movie really had. I don't know. I didn't mind the fact that he actually went out of country. That doesn't bother me so much, but I just felt that it wasn't a Die Hard movie. I just thought it was a kind of just a generic cookie cutter action flick.
That's probably my first complaint, and it's getting a lot of bad press. So we're sorry that we're contributing, but it didn't feel like a Die Hard movie. I mean, granted, wrestling a Harrier doesn't really feel like a Die Hard movie either, but at least those were fun. Those were something you could get into. It's ridiculous, but he still felt like he's John McClane, even if the situation is getting more ridiculous. I felt like this is somebody's grandpa running around Russia.
There was no urgency in this movie.
Mm-mm.
There was nothing pressing, no time frames, no ticking bombs. The villain, maybe we'll get into this a little bit more, but the villains were weak, very bland, very generic. There was one or two scenes that even a very what should have been a pretty intense action scene as far as the like a car chase.
Mm-hmm.
That was even boring.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. And in fact, I would say probably the first half of the movie, I didn't care about anything going on. Absolutely nothing. I thought the acting was bad, the story was bad, the action was awful. There was just nothing exciting about it. It was just boring.
It felt like you just stepped right into a movie kind of midway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's no setup. There's no, hey, this is McClane's getting dropped off at the airport for the most part. I mean, he gets a folder from a guy, and then he's at the airport, and all of a sudden, there was nothing building up the relationship between his son and himself. It just,
yeah, and I do want to point out some people have said that, well, where'd the son come from? He just come out of nowhere. But if they mentioned both kids in the first Die Hard movie, so that's part of the story. But you're right. I think when you threw in the CIA part, I mean, obviously they're trying to go for overseas bucks, so they threw Russia in there to make sure that, hey, we got a market over there. But I just don't get why Russia, because there's really no pressing reason for him to do anything. Honestly, he's the reason that the whole thing starts. He kind of fucks everything up at the beginning. So it's really...
Yeah, he's practically Mr. Magoo with a machine gun.
Yeah, and that's not John McClane. John McClane is supposed to be the guy where he doesn't want anything to do with it. He just has to do it, Like, he has to make things right.
Right. He's the only one trapped inside this 45-story building, and he's the one that's got to take out these 13 or 14 terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's crazy. It's a stretch in the realm of believability, but it's a lot more believable than this movie.
This seemed like the most generic action story they could have came up with. I could, off the top of my head, in a break room, think of several scenarios that would be more interesting than this one. Well, that's the story, which there wasn't one. And by the way, I'm convinced that for the first half of the movie, with the exception of the nice scene with his daughter, I thought that was okay at the beginning. There's no dialogue except for John, yelling John a lot, and Jesus.
Yeah, that and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things that stuck out with me was where's the writing in this? Where's the dialogue? Mm-hmm. I mean, how did this script get approved? I mean, it probably took about 30 seconds to flip through the first 40 pages of this script.
And you're being generous.
Yeah. Or either you could have fit the first act, mm-hmm. maybe in about 3 pages. Large, massive car chase ensues, and then leave that little bit for the director to stretch out over the course of about 6 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. And stuff like that. It just, very disappointed, man. Very disappointed.
Now, how about the acting? We've got Jai Courtney, who plays his son, Jack, or John Jr. What'd you think of him? Did you think he added anything to it?
Never heard of him, or at least don't remember him from anything in the past. So I didn't have anything to go off of as far as maybe gauging his performance from something else. But I don't know if I quite believed him being John McClane's son, but I didn't really think he was so bad. I don't think the acting was horrible. Mm-hmm. I know that's high praise, but well, you didn't suck. So,
it's fair though, man. It's pretty fair.
But again, I mean, there was no real. If they had written more about the relationship between the two of them, had them interact more than just the little one-liners and the "let's go" type of lines, then I'm open-minded to his future performances. I'll put it that way. But as far as this one goes, I take him or leave him.
I really thought Bruce Willis, he was actually trying. I think he's the only movie, and granted it is his franchise, but he was the only one in the movie I thought even tried to make a Die Hard movie at all. Jai Courtney, I thought, was fine. He was in Jack Reacher. He played a villain in Jack Reacher, but you didn't see that. And he was really good in that. He's very boring. He didn't have any of the sarcasm of John McClane. He didn't have any of his mannerisms or anything. I mean, I actually would have preferred Justin Long from the last movie. Just lie to me and tell me he was his son. I'm fine with that. And the villains, like you said, none of them are memorable. Maybe Yelena Snigir, she played Irina, the female villain. She was okay.
Yep.
But everybody else, yeah. There's one scene where the guy that plays Alec, I couldn't pronounce his name if I tried, so I'm not going to try. He has a nice little scene, but it makes no fucking sense. When they get those two...
The dancing scene?
Yes, and he just starts dancing and acting like he's trying to be Hans Gruber and off the wall a little bit. You're not, dude. Just please stop. Cause
I honestly probably liked him more than just about anybody else in the movie. Just because if he was a little...
off.
I like a villain who is just mean as shit, but is almost pleasant and polite. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I got from him. And the fact, like I say, he's a little bit off. He's a little quirky. He wanted to be a dancer, but then he just kind of snaps. He has these little fits or something. But I liked him, and I would rather have seen a movie about him.
Yeah, I will say, I honestly, this felt a lot to me like Crystal Skull felt with Indiana Jones, where John McClane is pushed to the background. And he's more of a part of the action instead of causing everything. Or being the person that responds to everything. It feels like he's just part of it. And you don't really get the sense that it's... Because the last movie, I mean, he wasn't that much younger. And he held the screen and he owned that shit. I mean, like, he was John McClane. This one, he just feels like somebody's grandpa that's stuck in some problems.
Yeah.
I think he tries really hard, but the screenwriting, something wasn't there.
Yeah, it's almost like it was one of those pass the baton type movies, but somebody just kind of dropped the baton or something.
I don't think they brought the baton. I think they left the baton at home. Now, here's the thing. This is the section of the film, and we're getting ready to wrap this up. The direction. What did you think about John Moore? And he did Flight of the Phoenix and that classic Max Payne. What did you think about John Moore?
Well, that was the one I was going to bring up was Max Payne. But, I believe he also did the Omen remake.
Okay. Yep.
Or an Omen, or a remake of the Omen. So I mean, just to kind of hammer home that point that he's not a very good director. I mean, all due respect, but he's not.
The movie starts, and it starts with the close up. They're trying to be dramatic, and they do that shaky cam bullshit. I first off hate when directors do that. It doesn't make anything seem more dramatic. It makes me have to pay attention harder, and I don't like that. When they get to Russia, I don't know if you noticed this, but there was at least 6 or 7 times where they would show like a wide shot of a city or an area and then zoom in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was the most annoying and pedestrian direction I've seen in a long time. And then every action scene, there's a big car chase, and I'm talking for the first half of the movie. Second half, it seemed like it leveled off a little bit, where I could actually follow what the hell was going on. But there was a car chase near the beginning of the movie when he finally gets with his son. I couldn't tell you what the hell happened the entire car chase. Until McClane's truck flipped over 67 times, he got out like he just hurt his neck in a, racquetball incident.
And he's not even scratched.
Not even scratched, which is so ridiculous. There's no airbags or anything. But I couldn't tell what happened the entire car chase because the direction was so bad. Just bad.
And just to kind of hammer that point home, I don't know if you noticed this part, but the giant truck is barreling through this tight street with the cars, and it's just knocking these cars out. And you can even see this on the the commercial, or even just find a clip online somewhere, because it's got to be out there somewhere. But the cars are bouncing up and up and out and away and blowing up and smashing windows and all this stuff. When the truck is probably 3 feet away from it, it's not even touching it. Mm-hmm. And this car, and it's just, of course, it's all cut so fast. It's, unless you're kind of, I guess, maybe looking for it, it just jumped out at me. And somebody asked us in the past, as far as, what are some of our pet peeves? And this is one of my pet peeves. You got a big truck that hits a car, and all of a sudden the car flies straight up in the air. There's no physical way that could possibly happen. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's like 2 or 3. There's dialogue that was not in this movie that's in the previews. There's scenes that are in this movie, or that are not in this movie, that was in the commercials also.
A lot of them. Like the girl stripping down to her skivvies isn't in there.
I know it. There's a conversation from the taxi driver and McClane that was in the previews, but not in the movie. Disappointed.
Yeah, very disappointed. So overall, what's your final verdict?
Oh, if out of a $10 ticket, I would give this I'm just going to round up and give it a 5.
Round up. I like how you said that.
Yeah, because I feel 4 is too low, because I did get some satisfaction out of this movie. It did appeal to that Cro-Magnon brainless guy who just wants to sit there and look at pretty pictures and lots of explosions and guns and very simple dialogue. And that was satisfied. But that's about the only part of me that was satisfied.
I can't agree with you more, man. There was actually a point where I thought about walking out.
Wow.
And Die Hard is one of my favorite franchises. This and Indiana Jones, are 2 of my biggest, and just so bummed. So bummed. And I didn't think, finally, I think the second half of the movie kind of saved it, because the first half I really thought was an awful movie. I don't even think it's okay. I just think it was awful. The second half kind of saved it. They kind of amped it up a little bit. He became a little bit more McClane-ish. But the direction, just bad, bad, bad. I give it 5 out of 10, too. And that's being generous, too.
Exactly. It's just just abort it. Mm-hmm. Just abort the word Die Hard out of this, and it would be an halfway decent movie.
Yeah, and people keep saying, well, let the franchise die now. No, you know what? I think they should make one more, and they should get somebody of talent to do it. Because I don't want my last memory of this franchise to be this shit. So that's
let's have a Hans Gruber relative. Let's say, all right,
somebody had a son,
Bruce Willis, and John McClane and his son and daughter. They're having a family reunion in this large building somewhere. It doesn't have to be a 45-story skyscraper, but let's just say a very large building that Hans Gruber's family member is in. All of a sudden, it gets locked down, and now they've got to hunt him in this building.
Bam!
Kind of flip it around.
Thanks for listening. You can listen to our full Die Hard review with the other members of our podcast at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. That's thehollywoodoutsiders.com on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember, the next time you go to a theater, buy popcorn.